This is a closer look at the trail camera, which, as you can probably see from those behind, is a slightly different design. But that's not a bad thing. We like variety. We've got about 10 of these cameras at the moment, and it's always good to try something different, which is also why I was especially keen to try this one. It has lots of points in its favour, but also a couple against, and I'll try to go through these in turn. It's an all plastic construction, as these cameras are. There are good loops there for fixing a webbing strap around the back to fasten it to a tree, a post or other surface. One thing I like about this especially is it has black LEDs. Some cameras have red LEDs like this one, so if you approach it at night, say you remember the public walking through some land and maybe you shouldn't be there, as you approach that will glow bright red, and that could expose you as a trespasser, in which case you might feel like pinching the camera. So that puts the camera at risk, whereas this one with the black LEDs, it remains completely invisible, which is also good for the wildlife as well because they can't see it either. This also has an LCD panel on the front, which none of the others have, and that's quite good because you've got these control buttons on the front, so you can actually adjust it once it's been set. All the settings are controlled from within, and unlike other cameras, this actually has some preset modes. If I just shine the light on it. So at the moment it's switched off. There's a set mode there where you adjust the settings via this LED panel on the front, which I hope you can see. So it has a preset mode A, which puts it into camera mode, that's camera as opposed to video. Mode B puts it into a video mode, again I hope you can see that. And then there's also a manual mode, which enables the user to input their own settings. There's a 12-volt connection socket there, and that's quite well designed because it's accessible from outside the camera. You can see there it just pokes through the base. Quite clever and also quite effective. Another feature which none of our other cameras have is a laser focusing aid. So when you put the camera into set mode and press the M button for about 3 seconds, it produces this red lamp which you can focus in the distance. I don't know if that shows, but you can aim that at the target area just to make sure the camera is actually focused on the right area, because all the other cameras you're focusing blind and it is very much guesswork, so that little laser lamp takes the guesswork out. But with every pro there's always a con, and one downside of this is, whereas on these other cameras you can check your focusing area by playing back your footage or looking at your still photos on the monitor, this camera of course doesn't have a monitor, which is a bit of a letdown really, because if we visit our meadow away from home we like to just get the camera out, have a quick look at it and see what's on. In the case of this camera you've got to wait until you're home again or have a PC, because there's no means of actually looking at the photos and video footage until you're home again, unless of course you take a laptop or tablet or something with you, but there's no means of examining your footage via this camera, which is a pity. The thing I'm not quite so keen on with this camera is the battery tray. It's released via this lever here. It's not the strongest, and if it breaks that battery tray is going to be stuck inside, but it pulls out like so. Not necessarily such a bad thing, but of course now all the settings on the camera have been lost, whereas if you look at some of the other camera traps, for example, say this one, it can store 8 batteries, so you can have your top 4 in, replace the bottom 4, and then because there's still some batteries in here, there's a power supply to the camera, so all the settings are retained, whereas on this other camera they've all been lost by withdrawing this tray. So to be honest, I'm not keen on that. Also, I found that this camera doesn't tend to work as well with rechargeable batteries. You do really need to use the alkaline, which also makes the camera a bit more expensive to run. the tray back in. It does fit precisely, I have to say, and also these fittings are quite strong too, so that's good. You can see there's a little loop, so if you wanted to lock the camera and put a padlock through there, you can do. But the important thing really is not what the camera looks like, but how well it performs. So I'm going to show some sample videos just filmed in our garden, just for testing out the camera.